welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you're here with us because, well, today we're looking at a pretty hard truth.
Yeah, a very uncomfortable one for, a lot of productivity nerds, honestly.
Right. It's this idea that your beautifully organized, perfectly color-coded digital workspace is completely useless if your amygdala is melting down.
Exactly. I mean, usually when people talk about building these highly productive systems, there's this expectation of just pure external perfection.
Like you sit down, you look at your glowing digital dashboard, all the dials are perfectly aligned, and you think, yeah, I'm ready to conquer the world.
But if the engine inside your own head is literally on fire, that polished exterior isn't going to save you at all.
No, it really won't. So our mission today is to explore the ultimate architecture of productivity and growth for you. And we are going on a massive journey to do it. I mean, starting from the deepest biological wiring of human emotion.
Which is fascinating on its own, but then we're moving into frameworks for accelerated learning and habit building.
And extending all the way out to complex digital workspaces and enterprise-scale server automations. We have a really diverse stack of sources today.
We do. We're pulling from psychological research on emotional maturity and attachment theory, documentation for mental fitness, and then getting really technical with tools like Workflowy, Notion, and Alteryx.
Right, because it's a vital progression from the biological to the digital. Before you can learn a new language or program an API, you have to understand the hardware you're actually running on.
If you don't understand your own neurological baseline, any system you build is essentially built on sand.
Okay, let's unpack this because the research draws a very sharp, almost uncomfortable line between emotional intelligence, or EI, and emotional maturity, EM.
Yeah, people confuse those constantly.
Right, so EI is like having a dashboard that tells you your car engine is overheating, but EM is actually pulling the car over and fixing the engine instead of just sitting there screaming at the dashboard.
What's fascinating here is the underlying neurology of that exact analogy. I mean, emotional intelligence is just awareness. It's reading the gauge.
Like you know you're angry.
Yeah, you know you're angry or you know someone else is frustrated. But emotional maturity is the application of that awareness. It's the physical, actual neurological ability to choose logic and empathy over impulse.
Over just getting super defensive.
Exactly. And to understand why that is so incredibly difficult in the heat of the moment, you have to look at the brain's physical hardware.
The prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, right?
Right. So you have the prefrontal cortex right behind your forehead, which is your logical decision-making center. And then deep inside the brain, you have the amygdala, your primitive fear center.
The survival arm.
Exactly. For emotional maturity to actually happen, the prefrontal cortex has to actively inhibit, essentially boss around the amygdala.
But the amygdala is, it's pretty stubborn. Like when you get cut off in traffic or your boss sends you one of those passive-aggressive emails, you feel that physical spike, right?
Oh yeah, the heart racing, the tunnel vision.
Yeah, that's the amygdala completely hijacking the system.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the psychological research, there's this concept of emotional fusion.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, it happens when someone lacks that prefrontal maturity and relies entirely on other people for their self-worth. It's like your emotional state is tethered by an invisible string to how someone else reacts to you.
Because emotional fusion means the internal boundaries simply disappear. Like, if your partner walks into the room stressed, you are instantly stressed.
The amygdala is just treating their bad mood as a direct threat to your survival.
Yes. But the encouraging part of the clinical research here is neuroplasticity. I mean, childhood experiences and early traumas absolutely shape these default responses.
Sure, how we're wired from the start.
Right, but your brain is pliable. Therapeutic modalities like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which looks at negative thought patterns, or DBT, which focuses on distress tolerance, they actually physically rewire the brain.
That's wild. You're physically changing the brain.
You are literally building thicker, faster neural connections from the prefrontal cortex down to the amygdala. It gives the logical brain a stronger emergency brake.
And it doesn't always require, years of intensive therapy to just start building that brake either. The documentation around mental fitness for entrepreneurs highlights these tiny micro interventions.
Oh, the PQ reps.
Yeah, PQ reps, which stands for positive intelligence. These are just like 10-second exercises you do with your eyes open or closed.
PQ reps are brilliant because they interrupt the neurological loop. They're designed to boost what researchers call the self-command muscle.
By just focusing on a physical sensation?
Yeah, intensely focusing on a purely physical sensation for just 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like the feeling of your toes wiggling or the exact temperature of the air hitting your nostrils.
Pulls you out of your head.
Exactly. It forces the brain to devote processing power away from the saboteur fear region and activate the sage logical region. It breaks the cycle of the amygdala hijack before it fully takes hold.
That makes a lot of sense, taking you out of the abstract fear and putting you back into your physical body. And this all ties heavily into attachment theory for you as an individual, too.
Definitely. Safe attachment versus reactive attachment.
Right, having a safe attachment allows you to explore the world safely. You have a secure base to return to. But on the flip side, there is reactive attachment disorder, or RAD, which makes forming any kind of relationship incredibly difficult.
Because reactive attachment disorder generally stems from severe early neglect, which wires the brain to view almost all interpersonal connection as a potential threat.
The walls are just built so high.
Incredibly high. But whether you're dealing with clinical RAD or just, everyday office conflict, the data points to reflective listening as this profound de-escalation tool.
Where you just repeat back what they said.
Essentially, yes. When you reflect back exactly what someone is saying without adding your own judgment or defense to it, you signal to their amygdala that they are heard and safe. You are actively turning down their internal alarm system.
Okay, so we've pulled the car over, we've cooled the engine, and we've established a secure emotional foundation. You aren't operating out of fear anymore. Now we need to program new software into this biological machine.
Right, moving from emotion to execution.
Exactly. We are talking about efficiently building new skills and habits.
And we immediately run into the limits of our biology again here. People constantly think they can just force themselves to learn a new skill or hit the gym at 5 a.m. through sheer willpower.
Just power through it, right?
Right, but the science of habits shows us that willpower is biologically finite. It's a phenomenon called ego depletion.
It runs out.
It absolutely runs out. Every decision you make throughout the day burns a tiny bit of cognitive fuel. By 6 p.m., your prefrontal cortex is exhausted and your willpower is just gone.
So if I'm trying to learn a new language, instead of relying on pure motivation for language, I should just stack a 2-minute vocabulary review right on top of my morning coffee.
Yes, that is the essence of engineering a system. Rather than relying on motivation, you're combining the 2-minute rule with habit stacking.
Tying it to something I already do no matter what.
Exactly. Your brain's reward system, specifically the striatum, runs on dopamine. When you tie a new, tiny 2-minute habit to an existing, rock-solid habit like drinking that morning coffee, you don't need willpower.
The brain just expects it.
Right, the striatum starts to anticipate the dopamine reward of the completed microtask, and the behavior becomes totally automatic.
That is incredibly practical for anyone trying to build a routine. But when it comes to the actual learning part, like getting the information to actually stick, the frameworks emphasize the 80-20 rule.
Right, Pareto principle.
Yeah, meaning 20% of a skill accounts for 80% of the performance. If you're learning guitar, 20% of the chords make up 80% of pop songs. You figure out what that core 20% is, and you ruthlessly focus your energy there.
And how you focus that energy dictates whether the brain actually keeps the information. Because the human brain has a natural forgetting curve.
It just dumps data to save space.
Constantly. If you learned a list of facts today, your brain will efficiently delete the vast majority of them within 72 hours. To combat this, you have to use deliberate practice and spaced repetition.
Spaced repetition is huge in the literature.
It is, because it forces you to review the material at strategically timed intervals, right as the brain is about to forget it. You review it after 1 day, then 3 days, then a week.
And each time it gets stickier.
Exactly. Each time you force the recall, you signal to the brain, hey, I keep needing this information, which chemically encodes it deeper into long-term memory.
And one of the most intense ways to force that recall is the blurting method, which, you read a text, you close the book, and you literally write down every single thing you can remember on a blank piece of paper.
It is brutal.
Honestly, that sounds completely exhausting. Why wouldn't I just, highlight the book or reread the chapter a few times?
Because rereading is an illusion of competence. When you reread, your brain just recognizes the words and tricks you into thinking you actually know the material.
Oh, wow. So you feel like you've got it, but you don't.
Right. The blurting method is cognitively exhausting, precisely because it forces the brain to generate the information from scratch. That friction, that mental struggle to retrieve the memory, is exactly what thickens the neural pathways.
No pain, no gain for the brain.
Basically, we see this same principle in the rail framework and the use of mnemonic devices too.
Wait, break down Rail for me. How does a framework actually help encode that data?
So RAIL stands for Review, Associate, Imagine, and Link. It's a structured way to force your brain to care about abstract data.
Okay.
You review the concept, you associate it with something you already know, you imagine a vivid, sometimes even bizarre visual representation of it, and you link it into a sequence.
So you're not just memorizing dry facts.
No, you're giving the brain a tangible multisensory hook to hang the dry information on.
Here's where it gets really interesting. You can't utilize spaced repetition or the blurting method or Rail if you haven't captured that knowledge effectively in the first place.
You need an external system.
Right. We have to cross the bridge from your internal memory to your external capture system. We are talking about note-taking. And there is a massive debate here in the sources. Analog versus digital.
A very heated debate.
Writing by hand is like taking the scenic route. You remember the landscape perfectly. But digital notes are like you instantly get the information, but you might not remember how you did it.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
The physical act of handwriting forces the brain into a state of active encoding. Because you physically cannot write as fast as someone speaks or as fast as you can read, you have to synthesize, compress, and summarize the information in real time.
You're acting like a filter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're processing the underlying meaning, not just transcribing the words. This leads to significantly better long-term memory retention.
And a classic example of engineering that synthesis is the Cornell method. You literally divide the physical page into specific zones.
The three-part layout.
Yeah. You have a narrow column on the left for cues or questions, a wide column on the right for your main notes, and a box at the bottom for a synthesis summary. It essentially builds a study guide and a spaced repetition tool right into the page as you are taking the notes.
It creates immediate structure. But, digital note-taking obviously has its own profound advantages that we really cannot ignore.
Like searchability.
Searchability speed. Tools like SimpleNote or Roam Research offer bidirectional linking, where connecting one concept automatically creates a backlink from the other.
Which handwriting definitely can't do.
Right. The primary danger with digital note-taking is mindless verbatim transcription. If you type 90 words a minute, you just become a court reporter capturing data instead of a learner processing knowledge.
But what if your brain doesn't process information in neat, linear outlines at all? Like, a lot of people really struggle with the rigid structure of bullet points or Cornell notes.
Yes, not everyone thinks in lists.
Right. And the research dives heavily into visual learning things like mind mapping and sketchnoting, where you combine visual drawings with verbal data.
This is a crucial distinction, particularly for neurodivergent individuals. For the ADHD brain, traditional, rigid linear notes can be incredibly understimulating.
Just a wall of text.
Yeah, making it very difficult to stay engaged or process the hierarchy of information. Mind mapping provides immediate visual stimulation.
Because it spreads out.
Exactly. It allows hierarchical data to be spread out organically across a page, showing exactly how concepts connect spatially to a central idea. It caters to a brain that needs to see the whole picture at once, rather than processing a sequence of isolated details.
So what does this all mean? If workflowy is a minimalist Zen garden where you only look at one rake at a time, is Notion basically a bustling metropolis where you can see your calendar, your Slack messages, and your databases all simultaneously?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is exactly about choosing the digital environment that matches your cognitive processing style.
The organic versus the structured.
Exactly. Let's look at workflowy first. It truly is the Zen garden. It's an infinite, zoomable bullet point list. There are no folders. There are no separate documents.
Just bullets inside bullets?
Purely hierarchical. You click a bullet point and it zooms in to become the title of a new page, hiding everything else so you can just focus.
It sounds almost too simple, but the power is in the outlining and the tagging. You can just infinitely nest things. And if you want the pro version to get past the free limitation of 250 new bullets a month, it's just $4.99 a month.
Very accessible.
Yeah, and they aren't just letting it sit there as a simple text list either. They've been quietly adding really powerful features, like cross-tab drag and drop so you can move massive outlines around, the ability to email notes directly into your workflowy inbox. Well, that's something called ICU OCR.
Optical character recognition.
Right. You can snap a photo of a whiteboard, paste it into workflowy, and it pipes the text from the image straight into your outline as servable text.
It is powerful because it violently removes friction. The barrier between having a thought and capturing it is almost zero.
But it's pretty terrible for rich media, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you need a comprehensive dashboard with charts, embedded videos, dynamic tables, you hit a wall very quickly. That is where Notion steps in as the maximalist approach. Notion isn't just a document, it's a relational, database-driven workspace.
Notion feels like you are building your own software, honestly. You can embed live content from over 1,900 different domains using a service called iFriendly.
It's incredibly robust.
Yeah. You can drop in a live Zoom link, a scrolling Slack channel, Google Drive folders, interactive Miro boards. It all just lives natively right there on the page.
And the true architectural power of Notion lies in its /database command. You type /database, and you can create multiple interconnected databases within a single view.
Like having different lenses for the same data.
Exactly. You can link to an existing sample database, customize it to display as a rigid table, a Kanban board for project management, or even a calendar view.
And then just delete the ones you don't need.
All right, you delete the old default views to curate a hyper-specific master dashboard for yourself. You even have the granular nuance of choosing whether to paste a URL as a large visual bookmark or just a subtle inline mention that flows seamlessly with the text.
Okay, wait. You're losing me a little bit here on the transition. We went from personal bullet journals and Notion databases to, enterprise server automation?
It's quite a jump.
Yeah. If I have this massive, beautiful Notion database, why do I need to suddenly care about Alteryx and APIs? What is the bridge here?
The bridge is the limit of human input. At a certain point, personal productivity just isn't enough. You built this perfectly organized Notion dashboard, but you are still the one manually dragging the Kanban cards, downloading the reports, and pasting the data.
I'm doing all the heavy lifting.
Yes. As your system scales, you become the bottleneck. You need machine automation. You have to take the human completely out of the loop and outsource your digital habits to a server.
Oh.
That is where a platform like Alteryx and its workflow automation API comes in.
Okay, that makes sense. We are moving from organizing data to operationalizing it at enterprise scale. And the technical documentation for Alteryx gets very specific about how to do this safely. It talks about the Alteryx API v3, which allows users to upload new workflows programmatically as .yxzp files.
Right. Think of an API endpoint like a digital waiter at a restaurant. You hand the waiter your YXCP file, which is essentially the recipe or the blueprint for the complex data tasks you want done.
And the waiter takes it to the kitchen.
Exactly. The waiter takes that recipe back to the server, the kitchen, to execute it without you ever having to go back there yourself. But you cannot just let a machine run wild with enterprise data. A single bad recipe could accidentally delete a database or expose sensitive customer information.
Wait, so I can set up an API to run a massive data job automatically, but I have to ensure the execution mode is set to safe, so it doesn't accidentally trigger the wrong data connector and break my system.
This raises an important question, right? It's about safety protocols. Setting it to safe restricts certain tools and data connectors to prevent malicious or accidental system damage. Semi-safe and standard offer more permissions, but they carry a much higher risk of breaking the entire system.
Because they can access more of the underlying structure.
Exactly, they are digital boundaries. But there is also the complexity of version control here. The documentation outlines a parameter called bypass workflow version check.
Right, I saw that.
If you set it to true, you can force the API to upload a workflow, even if the document's version is technically greater than the server's.
But aren't I just overriding the very safety systems we just established? Like, why would a platform even allow you to bypass version checks if it could break compatibility?
Because it is a powerful override designed for emergency patches or highly controlled migrations by advanced users. It requires immense caution.
It's not for everyday use.
No, not at all. And as these automated workflows become central to how an organization operates, ownership of the automation becomes a critical issue.
Who actually controls the robot?
Exactly. The API has specific endpoints for job management. It allows you to retrieve workflows, create jobs, and even transfer entire workflows and their automated schedules to new owners. However, to execute a transfer, you must possess elevated permissions, specifically the curator or artisan roles within the system.
This raises such an important point. It mirrors exactly what we were talking about with human habits earlier.
It really does.
You set up a cue, a routine, and a reward in your brain, and the habit just runs in the background, consuming zero willpower. With Alteryx, you set up an API endpoint, a YXDP file, and a schedule, and the server runs the job in the background, consuming zero human effort.
The parallels are undeniable. Both human habits and machine automations are designed to execute complex sequences without conscious intervention.
Just firing on autopilot.
Right. And both require incredibly precise, careful setup to ensure they don't execute the wrong behavior. Whether that is you automatically stress eating because a bad emotional habit loop got triggered by your amygdala, or an enterprise server crashing because an API workflow wasn't set to safe execution mode. The architecture of behavior is fundamentally the same.
Wow. Let's bring this full circle. What a journey today. We started deep in the physical hardware of the human brain, exploring how the prefrontal cortex inhibiting the amygdala creates the emotional maturity required for anything else to function.
The biological baseline.
Right, and we use that stable foundation to bypass ego depletion and build fast learning habits using the 2-minute rule and dopamine rewards.
And then captured it.
Exactly, we captured that new knowledge using the friction of the Cornell method and spaced repetition, built our external digital brains in either the minimalist Zen garden of workflowy or the maximalist relational databases of Notion. And finally, we outsourced our habits to servers using Alteryx APIs.
It is a complete end-to-end architecture of productivity.
Yeah.
But, looking at the sheer capability of these external systems leaves us with a pretty profound reflection on what it actually means to be productive moving forward.
Yeah, it really does. Because as our digital tools, our algorithms, and our APIs become increasingly automated, as they become exponentially more capable of doing the heavy logic, the organizing, and the executing for us, it completely shifts our values.
It shifts what humans are needed for.
Right. It suggests that the most valuable human skill of the future won't be writing the code, memorizing the data, or even building the Notion dashboard. The ultimate competitive advantage will simply be maintaining our own emotional maturity and mental fitness to properly direct these machines.
Because if the machines are doing the driving, we really need the profound emotional clarity to decide where they should actually go.
It always comes back to the internal dashboard. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We wish you the absolute best in optimizing both your internal and external systems. Until next time.